Sanbonani, and a warm welcome to yet another exciting edition of the UN Bring Your Fire Live Dialogues. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is brought to you by the incomparable and passionate collaboration between MTN, Bushfire, and United Nations in Eswatini. Libito lami 𝗖𝗵𝗶𝗺𝗺𝗂𝗃, and I'm not alone. I'm with the flamboyant, ever-burning, so bright fire flame. It is none other than 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗃.
As Sia has already mentioned, my name is 𝗕𝗏𝗂𝗂𝗃, and I'm so excited to be having you at home, our live audience, and those joining us on social media for the UN Bring Your Fire Live Dialogues. It is very sad, Sia, that this is unfortunately the fourth and final session of the dialogues, but I'm sure that the conversations that we'll have today will continue from here on. And in today's conversation, you know, it's always centered around creativity, unity, and sustainability. And I think this one hits right at the heart of sustainability. Today's theme is of the Green Your Fire initiative. Today we focus on one of the most pressing global priorities, which is of course climate, biodiversity, and pollution.
Absolutely, Bello. You know, they always say, save the best for last. But according to me, I think all of them were highly and par excellence. Really, and the young people definitely brought their fire. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this joint outreach program is brought to you by UN in Eswatini in collaboration with MTN Bushfire to empower young people to be change makers through dialogue, action, and shared learning. And as you have mentioned, Bello, we are coming to this last dialogue with nothing but a blaze of glory, trusting that all the young people that we have here today will bring their fire and spread these conversations in addressing socio and economic challenges in their local communities.
And as you may already know that we are joined by a diverse group of experts from government, academia, the UN, and civil society. And they'll be helping us unpack the complex climate challenges today and point us towards a holistic and, most importantly, practical solutions. And today, our moderator is, of course, an award-winning environmental journalist. And as you may know her as the Green Girl, 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗺𝗃𝗃 joins us as our moderator for today. Moderator, over to you.
Thank you. I'm so humbled by the introduction. As they have introduced me, 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃, I go by Green Girl, and I will allow you guys to call me Green Girl as well. I'm an environmental journalist. Also, I am a climate advocate. All things green is me. I advocate for all things climate, environmental sustainability. So we all know that climate change is here. It's affecting everyone. It's not a far-fetched conspiracy, it's a reality. Climate change has no borders, and we have no planet B. This is the only planet that we have. So in that move, I'm very excited. We are here, we are sitting, we are going to discuss issues which are impacting us in Eswatini and globally with regards to climate change. I'm excited to have our panel here, Bama experts from the different fields. They will unpack technical information, hopefully as simply as they can, so that everyone can be on board and everyone can communicate. I hope everyone has their pens, has their notebooks, and you'll be scribbling down your questions. You'll get an opportunity to talk, right? So from the left, 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃 introduce there and highlight where they come from, and also highlight the work that they have done, as simply as they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃. I come from the Eswatini Environment Authority, an environmental regulator that is responsible for the enforcement of environmental laws in the country, ensuring compliance, and also doing education and awareness activities. I work as the head of environment impact assessment, coordination, and monitoring. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm 𝗕𝗏𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃 from the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, where I work as the National Program Coordinator on Climate Change and Environmental Affairs. On a daily basis, we work on helping the government of Eswatini to come up with strategies and also interventions that will help adapt and also mitigate climate change impacts.
Sanbonani, my name is 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I'm a young climate change professional. I'm also a co-founder of 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, which is a youth-led climate change network. So I'm quite excited to see young people in the room. I'm also a sonic curator, an art enthusiast, and I'm currently involved in the environmental eventing space, both locally and internationally with the Global Landscapes Forum. And it's a pleasure to be with you all today. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. Libito lami 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I work for the National Disaster Management Agency, which is a government parastatal under the Deputy Prime Minister's office. And our main work is to coordinate and implement disaster risk reduction activities, which are part and parcel of climate change adaptation. And it is a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝗵𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I come from the University of Eswatini. I teach in the journalism department, and my research focus areas are in climate change journalism. Currently, we are building a very interesting tool called 𝗕𝗏 as part of our initiative with the 𝗣𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺 and another UK entity where we're trying to build a thinking partner for climate journalists. I think over the years that I've been in this space, I've realized that we need to communicate better, and as part of that, we have moved beyond just writing books to building solutions that work for the media. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're getting straight into business, right? Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 here. So our topic is a bit technical, right? So I'd like you to deduce it for us. Renee? It's climate adaptation and mitigation through systems thinking approach. So I would love us to unpack what's the systems thinking approach so that everyone is on board. Simply as you can do it.
Thank you. So I think we need to first appreciate that the impacts are not in isolation to a specific sector. So there is an interdisciplinary effect, meaning that one sector cannot only address the impacts alone, but there has to be a multidiscipline so that we have sustainability. So the systemic approach is more of doing a landscape assessment where you note or map the different sectors that are involved so that it informs even your strategies and plans, even interventions, so that they become sustainable in their nature to address the socio-economic impacts in our livelihoods as well.
So one quick question, then we move on to Dr. Evans. Just a quick question, Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. From your perspective, right, what are the most critical interconnected climate change impacts experienced in Eswatini, and how do these impacts ripple across different countries?
Thank you. We have extreme weather patterns, changes in our rainfalls. This has effects in the sense that, for instance, rain, we have drought, we have floods. Floods can sometimes cause a conducive environment for certain diseases or breeding vectors like mosquitoes. Drought, at the other hand, can cause water levels to go down and also affect crop yields. So it cuts across the health, agriculture, and water sectors. So those are the impacts. So hence, even in the planning stage, when you look at those across the sectors, you also address the issues of socio-economic and the livelihoods.
Dr. Evans, Solo sikhuluma systems thinking approach, right? This is quite a lengthy one. So since Rio 1992 Earth Summit, the world has grappled with ways to address climate crisis, right? So the solutions narrative has undergone so much in terms of evolution. However, we still have not found the best common way to think of mitigation and adaptation. Could systems thinking be the answer in this regard?
Thank you for that very difficult question. I'll try to simplify it and maybe give an answer that makes sense. So I've always theorized and seen climate change as a problem that is wicked, wicked in that literal meaning of the word. It's complex, so complex issues require us to look at them from that perspective. Climate change brings with it impacts that relate to human life, that affect our biodiversity, etc. It also brings with it economic issues. We now have issues of migration, which are socio-political. We have issues to do with food insecurity. So when you look at all these challenges that it brings, it tells you that the more problems you add, the more complex it becomes. In that way, it becomes a wicked issue. And wicked issues can be solved by trying to understand a whole instead of a unit. So you need to be able to understand the entire system, which is from impacts, the causes. You want to understand the way forward. Yes, from 1992 at the summit, we do realize that we have had a conversation that started with ideas about, is climate change there? Is it an issue? Up until 1995, we have scientific agreement that it is in existence, it's impacting people. We're in an era now where we're talking about the solutions, but the question is, are we able to move in one direction as a world? We have done this, I think, through the COP meetings, the Conference of Parties. But if they manage to yield successes, yes, partly they have managed to raise awareness, to bring us together as a people, but where do we need to find solutions for mitigation? Yes, at a multilateral level that makes sense, but for adaptation, for example, locally, we are more worried about adapting because you are getting impacts more, whereas we are emitting less. But where do we find the solutions? We need to look at our communities, the way they are built around, the way they are organized, and be able to build a network of thinking and solutions that come from the people that are bottom up, that harness the indigenous knowledge that we already have. I think for so many times, for so many years, we've had our communities talk to us about the changing environment, but in different language. As a communicator, I want to be able to use that language that they use every day to then connect all the different dots and come up with a way forward. Thank you.
You know, there's something that you just said which struck me, that the climate crisis is a wicked issue, and you did put across the issue of the economy, which comes into mind that there is a war between the environment and the economy, right? People are trying to make a living, but the side they are destroying in the environment. Miss Mhlang, I'll hijack you. I know you're always ever ready. I'll hijack you on this one. What's your point on the war between the environment and the economy and the making of money, which is, we can say, the economy?
It depends on one's perspective. When it comes to this debate, this dialogue, you only find extremists. You cannot find someone who strikes a balance. It's either someone is completely for the environment or someone is completely for economic development. But it's very prudent that we cannot just put our heads in the sand. There are key issues that are at an international level, that are even at country level. For instance, the issues, they are there, we see them. But then there's also the issue of survival. I remember when I was doing my undergrad degree, my supervisor then, I was doing a topic on ecotourism, and it was so many moons back, and it was just a new concept. And she was like, Belusile, do you think that if I see an Impala on my yard and I'm hungry, I have to leave it? You know, because being a young person, being so passionate, the way we're approaching this, it was on the completely saying that, no, these people, they shouldn't touch these animals, neglecting the importance of saying, what are you offering as an alternative? The issue of alternative livelihoods, sustainable livelihoods, because at times we come up with alternative livelihoods that are not sustainable. You recall that we recently have the plastic debate, where they are saying people are sending kids to school because they sell plastic to reclaimers. But if you can get a researcher from these young people to say, go and find out, can someone really be able to survive on a day with an income from plastic? It takes about 100 plastics for someone to get 70 cents. how long does it take for you to go and collect the plastic? So the impracticality of some of the things that as technocrats we come with as intervention, just painting everything with just one brush to say this is an all-round solution to this problem, but not then scaling it down to the nitty-gritty to say, if I'm saying to these young people, venture into this initiative of collecting plastic from the environment, will they be able to sustain themselves? So why not bring in another element and say, let's have Patasako, let's have these young people now making eco bags for shoppers to use. It's all about that kind of systematic thinking, not to say this is a blanket statement and just feel that you've solved the problem, but getting down, the issue of research then comes to play to say the interventions that we come with, are they informed by research or we just moving with the trends to say this is the buzzword? We say in environment there is what we call greenwashing. There's a lot of greenwashing that is happening in the environment space. So the debate between economic and environment, we need to survive. That's why sustainable development, we say, it's development that takes care of the current, meaning that there should be intragenerational equity. We should be able to access resources in a way that does not compromise the ability of the others that are going to come after us to have similar equal opportunities as we did.
No, thank you so much. You see, ever ready. Yeah, it's such an interesting conversation there. Because I've now put the spotlight on you, it's just briefly. Usitshele ukuthi what are the policies and the practices in Eswatini in addressing the pollution and biodiversity loss? We can coin it in just a few seconds or...
As a country, we do have a very good legislative framework. We do have even practices. I'm happy here that I'm seeing even some familiar faces that have been very instrumental in driving sustainable practices in the country. So our framework legislation from our constitution, it specifically states responsibilities for the people of Eswatini, that each one of us here has the responsibility to ensure that we have a clean and safe Eswatini. And then it also places a responsibility on government to say, government should then ensure that the development of Eswatini, it does not compromise the environment, and also come up with policies and legal frameworks that are going to guide how we use our natural resources. So we have the laws, we have everything, but the challenge that we are facing currently as a country is the lack of infrastructure that is going to ensure that these practices, they become a norm. As such, we have a challenge with behavior change. So many people know it's wrong to do illegal dumping, but they do it anyway. So those are some of the issues that we are grappling with a very strong legal framework, the Environment Management Act, the waste regulations, the litter regulations, the air pollution regulations, the water pollution regulations, all these frameworks being in place, but then you will still find someone in Mkongo saying that today we woke up with the water blue because someone decided to go and dump hazardous waste into the river system. And then the question is that, do we have a hazardous waste facility in the country? So it's just a catch-22 situation where, as a country, we need to take certain strides with the assistance of development partners such as FAO here, so that we ensure that we provide the programs, we provide the systems at community level, we provide even the proper infrastructure.
No, thank you for that elaborate and informative response, Ms. Mhlanga. Ms. Dlamini. Yeah, let's khuluma vulnerabilities, right? Vulnerabilities. We know that climate change, it comes with, be it floods, heat stress, which you guys usually respond to, right? So would you please highlight the key vulnerabilities due to climate change? And if you can, please put us in the picture, just one incident which stuck in your mind where you guys had to go and mitigate and help, like the situation, just give us the picture of what is happening on the ground.
Okay, thank you, Phumelele. Vulnerability in its nature is so multifaceted, it's so multidimensional. And it's one component of a disaster risk that has to be clearly assessed and explained. One of the things that is there is that as Eswatini, we are exposed to natural hazards that, like drought, like floods, because of the location that we are in. Other things that increase our vulnerabilities, our socioeconomic status as well, because the more vulnerable you are, you cannot bounce back as a person who would be more socially upright in society. Now, Logunye is that you find that our country is dependent mainly on rain-fed agriculture, which is another vulnerability on its own in terms of livelihoods. And you will find that when drought that happens on a recurrent basis happens, those that do not have irrigation, for example, the irrigation facilities are the most hard hit. But we do know that droughts are recurrent. We do know that floods do come, but then when the floods come, what have we done in terms of ensuring that we are lessening the impact of the floods? We find people living in flood-prone areas. We had an assessment recently with the Ministry of Works along the 𝗕𝗏𝗄𝗏 River, and there is a home right along the banks of the river. And for me, that was a crisis and an issue, and saying, how are people being located in areas where the risk of them being inundated by water is so high? You find that when we are working, the vulnerabilities labakona is the fact that sometimes you find that even our infrastructure is not climate smart. Case in point would be the fact that when it rains, I think one of the things that you will notice and note is that when it rains, there will always be people that will be internally displaced, regardless of any type of flood, because of the structural integrity of the buildings that they are living in. So those things are there, they are reality. You find that you need to come and respond to people that have been displaced in 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗃𝗃 with chickens. So that is a reality that is there in terms of the vulnerabilities that we have. And the fact also that it's disproportionate in its nature. You'll find that the poor are more vulnerable because they do not have a means of bouncing back and of also adapting. You have mentioned that climate change is evil. Really, in the face of those who cannot afford to adapt and who cannot afford other strategies, it is an evil that collectively we need to overcome.
You know, you've just painted a picture. How I wish we had a slide so we can get the sense, but I can feel that everyone in the room is getting the sense of what she is saying. We have seen pictures in the media, we have seen pictures all over social media. This climate crisis is here and disasters are happening every day. And when they say baga risk, but it's still going to intensify. So we really need to be clued up on what to do. But now, we can loosen up a bit. Tamika here, I think she will resonate with you guys. She's a youth. She's also a creative. So now we'll speak climate change and creativity, right? Tamika, what creative approaches have you found most effective in helping people understand the interconnected of nature, of climate systems? Basically, it's nature, it's creativity.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. And yeah, I think maybe just to reflect on what the other panelists have said, for example, Dr. Evans, you know, with your research, I think it's important that, climate change science is communicated to the local level and is simplified. And I think, I think the arts and just creative elements have a key role to play in really dissecting these what can often be very high level, sort of global conversations. So I think just in my own experiences and some of the work that I've done, for example, working with local artists to paint a public mural as a way to raise awareness on climate change. During COVID-19, the lockdown, I also worked on online magazines that focused on youth perspectives on sustainability, environmental issues. So I think, firstly, the power of storytelling. It's very important for us to localize these issues so that, it really sort of brings it home that climate change is something that is impacting us in our everyday lives. And sort of to actually show what that looks like within the Eswatini context. Because I think a lot of us could probably agree, just in terms of when I reflect on my own sort of schooling system, the polar bear on the melting ice, like that was usually the image that we saw. And yes, all and well, it's true, the Antarctic melt is icing, but can we also have images of what it looks like within Eswatini's context as a landlocked country, for example? I think just to touch on that, so storytelling, I think just in the sense of all forms, poetry, dance, theater, writing. So I think also just to put it to the youth who are in this room, like if you have any of those interests, just know there is actually space for you within the climate change world. I think the other thing maybe to just touch on is also around the narratives that we build when we are actually communicating climate change. I think it has been mentioned, for example, a lot of the time the narrative is all about the issue, the doom and gloom, which is also important because we need to realize just, the extent of the crisis that we are in. And the extent of the impacts of climate change. But I think we really actually need, just more stories of hope, resilience, innovation, in order to inspire action. Because, I think there's, just as a youth, a climate professional within Eswatini, and being within 𝗕𝗵𝗃, like I've been exposed to so much amazing work that young people within this country are engaged in. And I think unfortunately a lot of that work goes unexposed. And yet we actually need to learn about what are, like some of the solutions that are already taking place. Thank you.
I'm just curious. Is there a way for the youth, especially those who are interested in your music, in your poetry, are you actually encouraging them to align themselves and produce material that is actually aligned to climate change and sustainability, protection of the ecosystem?
I would probably admit maybe more in my work outside of Eswatini, but definitely have plans within 𝗕𝗵𝗃 to always bring that. And I think it's something that we encourage within our network, always sharing all of these other opportunities. For example, there's a lot of opportunities that come up within the climate communication space, journalism space. So things such as fellowships, there's always like grants for storytelling. So I think these are the things that youth can tap into. But maybe just reflecting on some of like the events curation work that I've done with Global Landscapes Forum, which I'm actually quite blessed to have been a part of the organization, because it's really also, for me, been a learning journey, just in terms of, just rethinking what events can be, and even what forums like this can be, and what they can have and include. And I think just in some of that experience, I've been exposed to events where we'll have poetry interventions, for example, between panel discussions. We'll have documentary screenings, because I think, also using like visual tools is quite important, especially when we're communicating to young people. I think a lot of us are very visual driven. Obviously, we have cell phones. I think a lot of us learn better from actually seeing these things rather than just being spoken to. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 they are and we were taking notes. We heard Ms. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, Dr. Evans. I think we should also take a break and give you the floor, right, a Q&A, and ask any questions that you'd like to direct to our panel, right? We'll give you a chance, just a brief question, and they will take your questions. Anyone with a, already. Okay, please pass on the mic. I'm so happy you guys are listening. This is quite a technical, it's technical, but I'm happy you are here, you are responding, and you are attentive. Thank you. Please continue listening, it's motivating. Oh, there's another question. Okay.
Good morning. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃, and I think I'm going to direct this question to Ms. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗃, or like open to everyone, I guess. We are talking about how climate change is here and real, and everyone can see it in our different communities. And she touched on education and awareness. And I want to ask, how is climate change and everything that we're seeing that is going on around us, how is it being integrated into our education systems? Thank you.
Another question. We've got many questions, but I'll only take 3 for now, right? Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Sanibonani. Hello to everyone.
Hello.
My name is 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃, best known as 𝗕𝗶 for music. I do music, by the way. I'm a mixing engineer, but that's not important. My question is, in the case of an example of the person who you found to having built next to the river, and which is a hazardous action against the environment and against their lives. What is NDMA doing, around those lines, trying to tackle issues like that? Because there's probably not the first and probably the last person that you've seen who have built in a situation like that. And I want to know the measures that are being done, like by the government, to tackle things like that, since you can't unbuild what they have built next to the rivers or hazardous places, maybe next to dongas or something. And my second question is to Ms. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. I don't know if I'm addressing very well. And okay, I understand that Rome wasn't built in one day, right? And you can't really tackle all of the issues all at once, or maybe. But my question is, which strategy are you using to target the areas that are most affected, or are going to be mostly affected in a course of time, maybe like in a scale of 10 years or so? What strategy is being done to support the places that are supposed to be attended first than the others? Thank you very much.
And we're going to take one last question.
Good morning, everyone. My name is 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃. So my question is directed to all the panelists. Okay, so the question is, considering the extensive legal framework that we have in trying to address climate change and its effects, what challenges or limitations do we have or do we face when trying to enforce these laws? I'll make an example. I have had the privilege of being an intern at microprojects, and what happens is every project that is in the construction phase requires for EEA to be part of it. So they go and they just see how the project is going to affect the environment and all the likes. And what I've seen is they usually keep or have a budget aside so EEA can be able to transport their workers to carry out these, I'll call it assessments. So this is just another example of one of the limitations that could be there, that being finance. So the question is, considering the extensive legal framework that we have, what other limitations or challenges do we have in enforcing these laws? Thank you.
No, siyabonga imibuto. I guess we're going to start with 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 Please rehash the question quickly, so 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂. 3 minutes each person to answer questions.
Okay, the question was, what is NDMA doing in light of the current challenges and finding people along in areas that are disaster prone? Okay, one of the things that we have done is we have recently conducted and finished a risk profile for the whole country, where we are looking at the hazard and the vulnerabilities that people face. And one of them being the hazard that was chosen is the floods. So we have highlighted the areas which are flood prone, and that is also, it will also give us a picture of the populations that are at risk due to that. And then after that, there's that engagement that has to be done with the local community, because you just can't say to a person, hey, get out, you know? But there is that engagement that is being done at national level and also at community level as well, to make them understand, and so that a person knows. So when a flood happens, I'm at risk, and the first people to be evacuated would have to be those. But if push comes to shove, I guess because we know that climate change is really, the impacts are quite severe. There will come a time where I foresee in the future that some populations would need to be moved and relocated somewhere else because of the, on a yearly basis, you are being affected, So there are those engagements that are being done, but we're using science and also our community observations to make those decisions and to inform decision making.
The issue of climate migration or immigration or migration is coming back into light again. Okay, no, thank you. Ms. Mhlanga, please, 3 minutes.
Okay, I will start with the issue of education. We have different programs with other government institutions. We currently working with the Ministry of Education and Training, the National Curriculum Center. If you have done homework with your siblings, you will know that we have environmental issues captured in the curriculum across from your primary level up until high school. Even at university level, we have programs like the Education for Sustainable Development projects that we are doing with the university, where we are talking about the issues of greening our institutions of higher learning and the TVET colleges. It's work in progress. That's why when you do your assignments, you'll find that you will be in engineering and there will be questions on sustainability because of those collaboration. We also support at times research that is being done by the academic institutions of the country, but there's still more work that we need to do with this regard, especially with our environment fund, where we are looking into expanding and having just a portfolio for academic research. Then we also have the Green Schools program that we are doing with UNESCO, where we are trying to accelerate the environment education program, to say that it shouldn't happen in the classroom, but it should be a way of life, something that everyone, not just someone who's doing geography or those subjects that are inclined towards environment, but where we have a whole school approach of addressing environmental issues at school level. And then someone asked about strategies to address some of the environmental problems that we face. I would just highlight on the issue of waste. We have programs that we have done. We have done a pilot project on disposable diapers. You know how diapers are a problem to the country. So we've done work with the people of 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 where diapers are a serious problem to see what is the uptake of the alternatives, that is the reusable diapers. And the data, it was very clear that, okay, the disposable ones, they are for convenience, but with the economic climate, the reusable diapers, they are the best option because you find that people do not have money to buy diapers when with the reusable options, we established that they can be used with 3 kids. If someone was to have 3 kids, they would use the same reusable diapers for those kids. And then we also have programs that are at community level where the Environment Fund has funded projects for waste collection. These are some of the thriving waste management initiatives where the local community is having a waste collection system, and in households, they pay towards the maintenance of the system, which then creates jobs for the people and also create a bit of profit while at the same time assisting with keeping the country clean. We also have private sector that has come into the party. I think you might have observed in areas like 𝗨𝗵𝗶𝗺𝗺, is I was coming here, I met a group of young people that have benefited through the FNB Foundation litter picking initiative. We have them at 𝗨𝗵𝗶𝗺, we have them in 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂, we also have them in 𝗔𝗱𝗌𝗂𝗂𝗂 and also in 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂. So these are some of the initiatives. But they are not sustainable so long as the behavior is still the same. If you go to Mhlaleni, I'm telling you, there are people picking litter under that bridge 2 times a week. But go there on a Monday, you will be amazed at the littering that has taken place. People take waste from their households instead of using the community system of waste disposal, they take it to the road. So these are some of the challenges that we face with enforcement. Absent landlords, someone asked about challenges in enforcement. We have absent landlords. If someone, the university students, they so much know these ones. You don't know where your landlords are. You're staying in facilities, and these challenges are predominant, and there's no one to report to. Even if you report to us, we'll go there, and people will be saying, we don't know the landlord, he's in South Africa, he's what. So how are we going to solve these problems if we can't even identify the owner of the land? It goes back to even the land issue in the country. You go to some communities, there is no proper traditional structure to say, this is the traditional authorities. 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂 being one of the classic examples that even if you were to deal with some of these landlords, they are not registered anywhere because there is no clear channel as to who is the proper traditional structure. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing, coupled with the fact that environmental crimes, people don't think they are crimes. Actually, environmental crimes, they are a sin. If you are a Christian and you commit an environmental crime, you are sinning. It's a crime, it's sin. But you go to churches, they have events, they will be littering, committing sin all over. So that's the challenge that we are facing with environmental issues.
No, thank you, Ms. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂. So I'm going to bring it back to us. Then we continue with the interaction. I'm so captivated by the way you guys are kept, and it's going to be a beautiful day ahead, right? So there are issues that I really need for us to discuss, then I'll give it back to you. Dr. 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗺𝗺, there's an interesting question here. What are the most significant feedback loops between climate change impacts and socio-economic factors in Eswatini that require urgent attention?
Okay, thank you. Feedback loops, we have positive and we have negative ones. In the case of positive feedback, we look into issues where one would say we restore rangelands, and after restoring, we are able to generate enough fuel to cover the soil. But then the one aspect, if it's not systematic, then there's an aspect of managing whatever intervention that has been done. So what becomes a loop in that space, it becomes that once we have the high fuel, we have failed fires. Failed fires, when they come, then there is emission again. So it's solving one aspect, because maybe the issue was just degradation. Once solved, we didn't look the other nodes in terms of managing it so that it minimizes the impacts of failed fires. Again, we can look at it also on a negative side, where we say, once we have too much carbon in our GSG, we have our plantations, it means there will be more photosynthetic and growth to a certain extent. But we then need to equate as to at what level do we get the benefit. Yes, the trees will grow a bit faster in harnessing and the gas, but what are the long-term returns in the sense that also, if it is not well managed again, it will also release, because these are man-made plantations. After time, they need to harvest. If it's natural, again, we need to take consideration of how we manage them sustainably, because if we don't manage, there will be overfalls. If you bring wrong species into the ecosystem, there will be some erosion, because trees will fall, create more erosion. So those are the challenges we face. More so with fires, we know that coming to the socio-economic, we know that people's homes are burned, livelihoods are lost. It starts with, in the case of the forest, we have an opportunity of an upcoming industry or sector of honey. If not well managed, during this time, we have a lot of these field and forest fires, people harnessing honey. Because we haven't looked at it in a systematic approach, there might be a problem, which then creates either a positive or negative loop for the economy and social. Yeah.
What I'm hearing is there's a problem, then the problem, there's a solution to the problem, but now that solution has another problem. So
strategies from community level, moving to a landscape level, and at a national level. And in that, there has to be clear nodes of coordination. From a community, from the development community, it needs to play a role. Regional, in a landscape, there has to be a clear role, and national, in terms of making this integration and also ensuring that all the potential impacts in one isolated management do not lead to another effect.
No, thank you. You know, as you are talking, I'm thinking of a question that I'll give to Dr. Evans with regards to technical information that you're giving us, that what role can the media, because we know that the media plays a huge role in transmitting information, right? They are in the midst of things with regards to the climate crisis and knowledge management and sharing. So Dr. Evans, how can we take this complex information and really fine-tune it to be simple, but not with the temptation to oversimplify the information and losing the essence as well?
No, thank you very much. Maybe to pick up from what Dr. 𝗵𝗶𝗺𝗺 is talking about, when I'm thinking of these feedback loops, I was thinking as I was talking about problems being solved and then creating new ones. I think we are where we are today because over time humanity has tried to solve its generational issues. Climate change is our generational issue. I was a youth a few months ago, and I considered climate change one of my urgent issues. So we moved from firewood to coal because we're trying to lower cutting down of trees, and coal led us to emissions. Now we are moving to solar and wind, but again we are taking over huge amounts of land and we're killing biodiversity. But it doesn't mean that there is something wrong with the solution. We just didn't think through it as a system, that if we do this, what then happens after. So as we come up with solutions now, you come up with solutions now, you need to be having this multi-sectoral approach, the interdisciplinary approach that Mavimbela is talking about, that we need to think thorough and through, but that's the whole point of a systems thinking approach, that you want to look at things now and tomorrow, and what does this mean? But coming back to the question about what is the role of the media, as a journalist, it's a challenging question. Over the past 57 years, the media has been talking about climate change, but maybe we've been very elitist in our approach. Over the past 6 years, I think I've started thinking about, is the mainstream media, traditional media, the right way to communicate everything about climate change? And I think in my response, I want to be more granular and more specific. While the mainstream media has been very much able to tell us that there is a crisis, has been able to report on what's been done nationally, regionally, or internationally, it has not been able to push action, at least at a local level, which makes us think that maybe if you had to think of the solutions that are coming from creatives and art, I think I look at art as one of the ways through which I've understood climate change better. I followed the art of Okrad and Harvey and how they've portrayed the crisis over time. And through these images, they are moving in our heads. We're able to visualize, we're able to move and be empathetic to whatever is happening. But more critical is that the media has not, I think to a certain extent, been able to humanize the story. Climate change is not about other things. It's a human story. When she's talking about people that are building close to riverbanks, I'm tempted to think about what does that mean for that particular community, for that family. But if a reporter goes there during a flood, most likely they'll just talk about the flood, that we received so much rainfall, and the story becomes so scientific or economic or political, and equally moves beyond the people. If there was a flood in the river, maybe it's overflooding and a bridge is swept away, as a journalist, normally you just want to report on the bridge, that a bridge in Mhlume was swept away, but you never want to go and ask people that are there that how many kids couldn't go to school that week because there was no bridge. You don't want to ask how many people were due for maybe their diabetes medication at a local clinic that could not go to the clinic. It becomes an issue of survival. It's an issue of humanity. But over time, I think we've centered so much on politics, on the economy. We've centered on the scientists themselves. There's nothing wrong with all those, but is that impactful in terms of driving action, in terms of driving behavior change? We hate that there is an issue with behavior change, but maybe it's because the media has not been able to localize the stories, to humanize them in a way that we begin to move from climate change, which is a science, to climate change that lives amongst us. Thank you.
Tamika, we're going to talk about innovation, and obviously I chose you for this one. So how can the youth be empowered to lead on climate adaptation and mitigation through innovation? And you can even list the technologies and how they can be used, just in a summary. Yeah.
Thank you. I think maybe part of my answer will also answer, there was a young man who had asked the panelists a question on, sort of the gap between the policies and the action on the ground and some of the difficulties. And I think maybe just reflecting as like a young person and someone part of a youth-led organization, I think a lot of our policies are very top-down and not participatory enough. I think a lot of the times we sort of told what to do, and even within the instances that we are included, it's very few people. Lucky if you have the right network sort of situation to be in those rooms. So I think that creates a lot of problem in the sense that young people don't know the policies that are currently out there and how we can actually tap in, and also what is like our leaders' vision and plans for addressing climate action. And then I think that will just lead me into like how can youth sort of lead climate adaptation actions within the country. Maybe just not even to go too complicated on it. I think a big thing is, for one, on knowledge sharing. And that's something that we big on as 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗂𝗂. I think there's a key role just in terms of exposing young people, firstly about what opportunities are out there, not only within Eswatini, but also what opportunities we can actually tap into outside of the country. And lucky, I mean, through like just us as a network sharing some of these opportunities amongst ourselves within something as simple as a WhatsApp group. So nothing too complicated, something we all have access to. Yeah, we've seen a lot of our network actually getting these opportunities to go to other countries, meet other young people who are also actively in the climate change space. And I think through those experiences, yeah, people get exposed to some of the technologies and innovations that are happening out there. And I think it inspires a lot of people to come back and sort of try and make their own, I guess, apply some of that knowledge within the local context. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, I think, yeah, knowledge sharing, capacity building, which can obviously be in so many senses. Maybe just to touch on, for example, I think when we think of capacity building within the climate change space, we usually just think of, are people aware of climate science, and which is all, I mean, that is an important element. But I think we also need to actually build capacity in terms of like just simple skills on, for example, professional skills. Are you able to write compelling proposals? If you have a project idea, can you translate it to a compelling proposal that can be funded, for one? Two, can you go into a room, an interview, like, can you knock that out? We need those skills. And I think a lot of the time, we don't look at capacity building in a holistic manner, whereas we actually need all of these other communication, leadership skills if we are saying that we want young people to lead in terms of climate action. Thank you.
I'm a bit curious, right? Before we bring it back to the crowd, with regards to innovations, do you think the youth can use social media, can create content just to create that awareness on mitigation and adaptation? I
think, yeah, certainly. I think youth have a big role to play. And again, a good tool to just make it more relatable. Because I think, yeah, youth attention spans, they're telling us our attention spans are getting shorter. But I think it's just really a call to rethink the way that we're actually communicating climate change.
Okay, thank you. 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗿, please create that content regarding climate change. Thank you so much, my panelists. So now we are heading it back to you. I know there are people who are burning for questions. But before we do, I want to make sure you guys are alive, right? Are alive. We are the youth. Just stand up and scream, green your fire, then sit down. Yeah, wake up, wake up. Young people.
We are also the youth.
Us, okay. Unleash. Jump and scream, and photographer, please take a nice picture.
All right, thank you so much to our moderator. I'll count you down, and then in 3, 2, 1, green your fire. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Green your fire! Thank you so much, moderator. As the conversation has been going, we are having an online audience. All right, thank you so much to our live audience. We are joined by an online audience. There are people watching online, and they also do have the burning questions. They're certainly bringing their fire. Even though I can't get through all of them, I will be allowing the moderator to filter these questions and then hand them over to the rightful panelists to answer on this one. Online, 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂
are methane levels being measured where there's a high concentration of pit toilets? And what is the potential of converting this methane to electricity?
Okay. Yeah. I think 𝗕𝗶𝗺 can deal with this one. She deals with such issues every day. I think she will coin the question in simple forms and give the answer. Yes. And back to the floor. This one is yours, right? Yes. Okay.
Okay, currently we do not have a system where we measure methane levels in toilets, but we've had a pilot project by 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺 where they were using cow dung for methane to fuel stoves in households. And I'm just disappointed to say that the project was not warmly welcomed by the local people. There were 6 homesteads that had been given these biogas digesters, but it just completely fell apart. With toilets, we've had an experience with Green Living Movement where they are using a dry sanitation, dry toilets. And the uptake, certain people, you know, emaswadi and toilet, there are those things. That's what limits us as a country. That's what makes it hard for us to adapt to climate change, because and if you ask why, because it's a means to an end, you know, they can't really say why. But other nations, they easily uptake these innovations. So it's something that can be explored. Maybe some of you here can even do research on it, on an uptake of biogas digesters from pit toilets. Yeah, it's something that can be explored. But with cow dung, it failed.
No, thank you, Ms. Mhlanga. We have questions. I remember I had one. I had one, yes. I'll pick you first. Yeah, because I have this vivid image of you picking up your hand the last time. Please assist with the mic. Please assist with the mic.
Good morning. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗀. I'm a student at 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺 University. My question is based like a solution one. Like ngifisa ukuva ke mina kuma panelists namuhla ukuthi ngidalwe eMbaka. eMbaka ke thina sinema refugees. Lama refugees kuke kwaba ke ne influx abamanengi. Nyalo ke lamanye akhona sekaseklid sana le mali yekwakha. Makakha ke lama refugees akha emateteni akha etindzaweni leti prone to ema floods. Ubuta nje ku emahlangothini lafana ko MDNA nabo EEA kuthi ngabe kudeni imithetho lenga implementwa njengona imithetho leyasita kuma CFCs because ma controller ema chlorofluorocarbons kwakhishwa imithetho ukuthi akuphinze kwakhiwe izinto letinjena noma ngabe kwaba khona lama fridge la existayo ngicabanga ukuthi inyalo saqishise kuphelele tonke izinto etinama chlorofluorocarbons. Ngifuna ukubuta nje ukuthi ngabe kude intaba letingentiwa kulama traditional structures la khona la kangwane ngoba angithi thine si government ngema chiefs nema chiefs doms kuthi laba lababekako le misumbe nale bagijime ngabe bona bafundiseke kanganani ngalama flood plains ngoba bahamba babeka nje bamvu ngosembabeka lapho khona sathi khona kwaya kwaba nelitete ngalokuthi inyalo sokwababede litulu sekuyoma yomile nje ngabe mangaba nelitulu laba lasebabekiwe khona vele ba in danger of ema floods ngabe bona bafundiseke kanganani noma kunemithetho le kanjani wale bagovernor laba babeka khona ngiyabonga.
No, siyabonga. I will ask both 𝗕𝗶𝗺𝗺 and 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺 when time comes to address this one together.
Good afternoon. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝗵𝗺𝗀 from the University of Eswatini campus. I'm directing this one to Mrs. Mhlanga. You did touch bases on infrastructure being the limitation in the country in the issue of climate change mitigation. Allow me to reach out to you as the EEA representative. As the Green Team of Luyengo campus, we do take initiative in the mitigation of population. We sometimes run a cleanup campaign around Luyengo. We even suggested the 3-bin system within the campus, but I must say we do lack infrastructure to keep the initiative up and running on daily basis being a community lakes disposal areas.
Good morning, everyone. My name is 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺𝗃𝗲𝗄. My question is directed to Ms. Mhlanga. It's concerning the issue of Pata Sako now. It's that issue. Now, considering the fact that people are failing to pata their own bags, so then it brings me to the issue here, carbon papers, which is something that is usually not very helpful because their tensile strength is very weak. Now, if everyone goes to the store every day to buy something, then they have to buy new carbon paper. Now, has the country looked at it in the way that maybe 10, 20 years later, we'll be facing a new crisis now of carbon paper pollution? Thank you.
Okay, I'll ask Ms. 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺 to answer the first question with regards to setting up structures, Guma wetlands, khulume about the risk side of things. Then the highly sought after, Ms. Mhlanga will address all the other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phumelele. Just to answer the question and to throw it back to the audience as well. Sihleli la sibancane ngisho. We all have aspirations, right? We all want to build and have our own homes, right? Angisho? Yes, we want to do that. Now, tinzawo setihamba thambe tibetincane, angisho? I'll begin with one incident during Cyclone Eloise, so that maybe it answers your question as well. In some area that I won't mention, I get a call, Cyclone Eloise has done a lot of damage, and then this particular home that was inundated with water because the person had built on a wetland. Now, imisumbe, one of their key duties in the communities is to advise, because they ask you, where do you see yourself now being located? And apparently in this particular case, they had told him, because in 1984, during the worst flood in this country, but he continued, no, don't help him. But then the question now then says, do we have the right maybe framework in place to deal with such issues, where Ms. Mhlanga will then come in terms of our environment, EIAs that we do. Yebo ayendiwa, but endiwa kuphi? Most of them, it's when you want to build in urban areas. But do we have them cascading down to rural areas? And the question is no. Now, that is where we need to strengthen as a country. What happens in urban areas, and the laws and the regulations need also to be cascaded down to community levels as well. Because we have building codes that are here in the urban areas. So you need to have an inspector coming in and inspecting, but do those still apply in the urban areas? The answer is no. So we need to find a way in which we make these frameworks and this legislation work for both urban and rural areas, so that we are able to have a society or communities whereby what informs in one area is also informing in another area, so that we avoid having to put people in areas that are disaster prone. So I think I could hand over to 𝗕𝗶𝗶𝗺 as well.
Maybe where you think it's relevant and discuss with other panel members.
Okay, maybe I'll first by explaining that the environmental laws of the country, they apply to everyone, whether you're on title deed or you're on Eswatini nation land. But then the challenge that we are facing currently is that if you find someone already having built their structure, what does it take for you to say the structure has to be destroyed? What kind of reaction is going to come from the building, from the public, with us going through a process where one structure gets destroyed? But desperation is driving people to, certainly in these environmentally sensitive areas, we do have engagements with the chiefs where we engage with them to say, this is what is expected when you allocate land to people and all the other environmental problems that are happening at community level. The example that is mentioned, if you can go and look at the history of that traditional leader, you'll discover that he was once even a board member of EEA. So it boils down to my behavior issue that I had mentioned earlier on. We've even had the Minister of Agriculture taking traditional leaders on study tours to other countries to see how natural resource management at community level is being done. And then Kulile from the Green Team, she mentioned that they do work at 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺. One of the challenges that we face in the area of decision making, just picture a situation where each and every Inkundla in Eswatini, 59 of them have disposal areas. What does it mean? It's also a problem on its own. So critical to this is to have this system where the waste is collected. Currently, the government of Eswatini, they are developing a bill for the Inkundla. And as Environment Authority, we're just hoping that the bill is going to translate into the issues of service delivery at community level, where people have this collection system. It might not be 𝗕𝗶side collection system, just having a centralized area where they can take their waste and then it can be taken for final disposal. Kwanyalo vele for 𝗖𝗵𝗹𝗶𝗺, it's only 𝗣𝗶𝗶, because even Malkans as a town, they are disposing in 𝗣𝗶𝗶. So what you are raising, it is a serious issue. That's why we then motivate for the local people, these mini trucks, they can convert them into waste collection trucks and have the local people paying for the service for them to be able to sustain themselves. And then someone was talking about 𝗵𝗶 and how they are forgetful. It's very funny how even the young ones are forgetting. Everyone is forgetful. It's a serious problem. And 𝗵𝗶 is about sustainable consumption. Even if you can buy an eco bag, it's not sustainable for you to be buying a bag every day, because we are trying to limit even that. So we're currently working on a standard with SWASA to say, when we speak about an alternative to plastic, what are we looking into? I was really hoping that you were also going to make reference to the tote bags that are being sold in the shops. I think you wanted to talk about those, because the paper ones, they just disintegrate, and they are not made from cutting trees, they are made from the chips that are byproducts, the waste that comes from pipe mills. So there are no trees that are cut to make a paper bag, but just the chips that are a byproduct. But then the tote bags, they've got plastic in them. So we are working on a standard that's going to say, if someone is bringing in an alternative bag to plastic, what should be the material composition to ensure that we do not then come up with a situation where we now have these tote bags all over with the plastic not disintegrating. Because we all know that you can come up with something that is inhibiting people to access a certain resource. I always make an example of sin tax. If you increase a tax on alcohol, smokes and all these things, bayayekela the first month, the second month they are getting used to it, they are spending all their salaries on booze because now it's more expensive. So we are going to develop a standard that's going to clearly address this problem you've raised.
Thank you. Maybe on the aspect of the degradation on the wetland, I think the main issue here is not creating a case on the value of wetlands, in the sense that if one person sees the value of settlement, do we bring a case to bring value of an alternate? There is great value. I've been involved in one of the projects, which was called Strengthening National Protected Areas, which worked around the country, piloting protection of wetlands, creating the value of wetlands. So through the CDP process, which is the Chiefdom Development Plan, the community was involved in mapping the different sectors, economic zones, settlements, production areas and project areas. They even set up their own conservation areas. What we learned through that project was that even though we didn't have the instrument, which is the instrument called ecosystems accounting, but through that initiative, we were able to capacitate, sensitize, and share knowledge on the value of a wetland. So in all the 16 sites that were piloted, extreme sites were selected, which were football pitches. Imisumbe were used to go and point to say, this used to be a wetland when I was still a boy. We piloted using such sites, and they were protected, water resurfaced, vegetation resurfaced again, and then we created the economic value now. Bomag and youth were now collecting the reed and wetland vegetation for handicraft. We had to link that. Hence now, the community was safeguarding those wetlands and also requesting for the protection of more wetlands. On top of that, because it's not everybody that has interest, we integrated another aspect of domestic water supply. It involved the Department of Water Affairs. We assessed the quality, and then water supply piping was connected for those who are interested in collecting water and doing their laundry in a sustainable manner. So I think the main challenge we have, it is to demonstrate an alternative value of the piece of land we have. Either wetland, either agricultural land, we need to demonstrate the alternative to it. I think it's a challenge that needs to be upscaled in terms of creating awareness to the chiefdoms that have not gone, that were not part of those pilots, and also upscaling in those where we have, because it's not was only picking the extremes, and there are more wetlands that can be protected, and livelihoods could be gained out of it.
Dr. Evans, so there is an interesting question here. The whole notion of indigenous knowledge, right? That back in the day, our forefathers used to tell by the ants that, okay, they are moving this way, it will rain, they are moving that way, this will come. So now, how do we, or how does Eswatini integrate indigenous knowledge, traditional knowledge, with scientific approaches to develop climate solutions, lasting climate solutions in Eswatini?
No, thank you very much. As a scientist, you're putting me in a terrible spot. So I think the question is very critical. It talks to the issue of knowledge and what is knowledge. So what you've just described to me is knowledge, that people could foretell that it will rain in the next 20 days. People could have their calendars based on observing the moon. That is knowledge, but over time, I think we've started seeing that as backward, and because it's not in books, it's not written. I think we are moving back now because of the SDGs. If you look at goal 17, the one on collaboration partnerships, I think around 2017 we had to go around SADC just trying to understand what are the knowledge systems that people had about climate change and how they defined it in their own way. And that was so meaningful to us that we now believe that what we need at national level, at university level, is to document that which for some time has been put aside as not worth it. I think the issue is that when you go to someone who is in a village and they tell you about the weather conditions, they're not referring to a textbook. So there's no peer-reviewed journal that they are using. But when you come to me, I can only accept that provided, I've seen the references, I've tested that, which is something that used to work, but I think as Africans, we need to start appreciating the knowledge systems that are amongst us. We have so much knowledge here in this room that's not documented, and we have so much knowledge in our villages that is not documented. I think it is the responsibility of the university where I come from and other partners to begin to document the indigenous ways of knowing. I call it deliberately the ways of knowing, because we have known about these things, we know about them, but we just don't have them written so that they can be accepted as formal knowledge. We just need to document, put them in books, put them in our libraries, so that they can be replicated, be used elsewhere. So there is an opportunity, and I think it's also part of us as reporters to start engaging. When you're writing a story about climate change, how often do you go to someone who holds this knowledge and say, give me your expert opinion on this? It's very rare. You want to go to a scientist at 𝗕𝗶𝗺, you want to go to a scientist who is in 𝗕𝗵𝗹𝗃, or you want to go to the Minister of Environment, but we have so many experts, but they're just not in our way of doing work regarded as experts. Thank you.
Thank you. What wealth of information. Are we learning? Are we learning? Are we taking notes? We're going to write an exam after this. So I have an interesting, different question for you. It's more on the global scale, right? So there are trends, there are global trends of climate activism. I usually watch on the news that people with their placards, there's online rallies. So for Eswatini, which ones do you think would work? You can just mention 3 and, describe them briefly.
That's a good question. I think in terms of trends, and maybe even one to pick up in terms of even looking at the bushfire festival, for example, I think a lot of organizations are now tapping into what would have been these traditionally artistic, creative spaces. And now we're trying to bring in some of these important social, economic, and environmental issues. So I think maybe for us to just take the Bushfire Festival and the model that they're trying to do as an example of what we could do in the country, I think even at maybe a much smaller scale, and let it happen more often. So I think that's one thing. So just tapping into what's already existing. I think another thing I can even share within my own work is, for example, I'm part of a team that curates a local market, and we basically bring in local fashion entrepreneurs, people who are doing thrifting, local fashion designers, and through that market, we basically raising awareness about, one, the importance of supporting locally made products, two, just trying to really encourage the culture of supporting local stuff, local fashion designers and entrepreneurs. So again, using a space like that to to really address some of these other issues. And then maybe the third one, which we've already touched on, just tapping into social media, which I think youth are already trying to do. I mean, you're an environmental journalist, and and you're already someone who I'm sure is using digital platforms to raise awareness, using your writing skills. So yeah, maybe just to rehash what I said earlier, we need to bring in artists, whether you're a painter, whether you're a poet, writer, whether you want to do film. We need to have more local stories, and I think just to put it in a nutshell, those are my.
Okay. I hope everyone grasps that it's quite simple. We can really. Climate activism is easy. It's just on the tip of your fingers, right? On your phones, you can say something through it.
Maybe just a test. How many of you have posted about today's event? Okay. Yeah. I'm so many years old, and I posted something in the morning. So you can see that, yeah, you can pass the buck to someone else, but it's also about you. What are you doing in your own space?
Okay, then I'm going to throw one, as we going towards the end, one question to Dr. here. Dr. Lindan, it's a question about SDG 17 as stated by Dr. Evans, partnerships, right? That how can partnerships drive effective and resilient climate action? Like today we are here, we are all for climate action. We know that many people partnered for this to happen using the bushfire platform, right? So you can elaborate, how can this assist in the future and the impact it has?
Thank you. I think the first start would be to appreciate that there is no partner with comprehensive strength in delivering any aspect. So that becomes your main pillar to say, alone I cannot do it, but mapping the different segment aspects and the segments of the partners that are required, check their mandates, their strengths. That's the starting point. Because like we are saying, as a UN, we're here to support government. It's our strength. Again, we're here to build cases, help to come up with strategies, feasibility studies where necessary, to inform investments. So the mandated partners, after mapping the different linkages, you are able to know, I'm interested in sugarcane, for an example, but there is a partner in Maloloja, which is a catchment for the water I'm using downstream. No matter how much drip irrigation I can apply at Mhlume, if I don't address Maloloja integrity, definitely the water volume in the stream will go down as more disturbance is happening in Maloloja. So it needs us to appreciate the different partners and then holistically come up with a coordination, because once we have multiple partners, there has to be strong coordination for you to ensure that there is effective delivery and also coordinated and interlinked interventions for sustainable livelihoods and also for the economy as well, because some interventions, like we had said earlier on, can have detrimental effects if not well managed or foreseen to what could bring next.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This was quite insightful. It was an honor being here. It was a wealth of knowledge. I'm taking a lot home. I'm hoping you're taking a lot home as well. And most importantly, remember, as Ms. Mhlanga said, you should share this event. You should also advocate for climate justice on your phones, taking her advice. It's not hard. It's not hard to talk about sustainability. It's not hard as the youth to address such issues. You guys are energetic. You can use your phones. You can use your technologies to advocate, because climate change is real. I'll tell you. And there is no planet B. This is the only planet that we have, our planet A, and it has no borders. What is happening wherever it is, definitely it's coming down here. We are all feeling the effects. Summer is coming, there'll be storms, there'll be hails. Winter is here, there'll be wildfires. So we are all in this together, right? Thank you so much for being good listeners. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. I'll hand over to the MC.
All righty, big thank you to our moderator and our live audience. Can you please give yourselves a big round of applause? And all I can say now, Sia, is that it's upon us to be the change makers and to keep bringing our fire through creativity, unity, and sustainability. The conversation definitely doesn't end here. Please join us on social media. It is at MTN Bushfire and UN Eswatini, and of course Eswatini TV. Keep the fire burning as well at the Bring Your Fire Zone at the MTN Bushfire Festival, which is taking place from the 30th of May all the way to the 1st of
ignited amongst our young people will continue burning even brighter, as well as accelerating the progress towards us achieving the 2030 targets that have been set by our global United Nations in Eswatini, or rather the partnership to make this possible was through the partnership of United Nations in Eswatini as well as MTN Bushfire, and the 2030 global goals are set by UN worldwide. And for the last time, ladies and gentlemen, we say, let us continue to bring our fire.